Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ego and today we're going to be talking about books. My favorite thing. One of my favorite things. So most of the videos on my channel that are about books have been focused on the kind of books that I love. I've talked about some of the things that I've been reading. I've also shown you a bit of my somewhat extensive collection of books, things that I've collected over the years. But believe it or not, there was a time in my life when I wasn't reading at all for fun. A couple of years actually, and there were many reasons for that. The main thing being the fact that I spent a lot of time in academia, a lot of time going to school. I took a bit of a hiatus between my bachelor's program before I went straight into my master's program, but it wasn't a big enough time. It was like a year gap. And within that period, I was just so driven and so focused on academia that I kind of stopped reading. I used to read a lot when I was younger. And there's something about going to school and having to study that I think takes away from the pleasure of reading itself, just for fun. But then came 2017. I started looking for hobbies and reading was just an easy one, an old one for me to reach back out to. And so today I'm going to be talking about some of the books that helped me get to the point that I am now. The books that I picked up that when I wanted to get back into reading that really just gripped me and captured my attention so quickly that helped me find my way back into this thing that I love so much. And I want to share them with you. First, I want to get this out of the way. If you're trying to get back into reading and you clicked on this video for that very reason, there are 4 things that I want to recommend you keep in mind as you start thinking about either becoming a reader for the first time or rediscovering your love for reading. The first is make sure that you want to. That seems like a no-brainer, like of course want to. But what I mean by that is I think it's important that if you're going to pick up reading, that you want to do it for yourself. You probably benefit from it either way, but don't decide to become a reader because you think it is something that will make you look cool or because you want to prove something to somebody or you want to present yourself a certain way. But on the other hand, I think those are also harmless reasons for wanting to be a reader. I'm happy as long as you're reading, really, no matter what your reasons are, but I just think it would be a more enjoyable process if you're doing it because you actually want to do it and you love it. Because life is too short for you to do something that you just don't want to do. The second thing is pick what you will enjoy for the very same reasons that I gave in the first one. So make sure that you want to read for yourself. Pick out what you know that you will enjoy, or at least something that you already feel drawn to. Number 3, start small, start short, start light. You don't have to start with a 400-page book if that's not what you're drawn to. And number 4, if you can find a book club, join a book club. That one's kind of optional and a little hard to do depending on where you are in the world or who you are, whatever. But if you can find a group of people to read with, that is always helpful. Yeah, so let's get to this list. The first book is Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. I love this book so much. I read it like halfway through 2018 and it was actually one of the first blog posts that I wrote that was book-centered, I think. And it is a period piece set in the 1970s or the 1980s in Nigeria. It follows the lives of a couple, Yejide and Akin, who are in love, want children, but can't have them or having difficulty having them. And they have to deal with the pressures of that or the pressures that their families are putting on them. They have to deal with interpersonal relationships, what it means to sacrifice. They have to deal with interpersonal relationships with their family, pressures from their family. And the marriage is a huge focal point in the story, but it really centers around the female protagonist, Yejide. You really see from her point of view what sacrifice means or what sacrificing yourself can mean for your family. The toll that societal pressures can take on people in marriages and in relationships in general. You get to see her work through betrayal, self-betrayal, as well as, betrayal from external parties. And it is so deeply moving. It is so gripping. And I read it twice since then, since 2018, I've read it twice, and it really does hold up. This book is so electrifying. The way it grips you. Like there are times in the book where the way Adebayo chooses to tell the story just like makes you have really visceral reactions to some of the things that go on in this book. I can't recommend this book enough, and I recommend it to anyone who reads any kind of genre. I think you would really appreciate this book. And I'm glad it was one of the first ones that I picked. I don't even know how I picked it back then when I was starting to get back into reading. But oh my God, did it get me back into reading. It did. It absolutely did. The second and third book are The Bollywood Bride and A Bollywood Affair. They are the first and the second book in a 4-part series by Sonali Dev. I had never heard of her before this book. And again, it's been so long ago because like I said, this happened between like 2017 and 2018. So I don't know what motivated me to pick these books. I don't think they were recommended by people. I literally started going from one store to the other and just like finding books that I thought I would enjoy that called to me like instantly. I didn't overthink it. And I remember I picked these 2 before I even knew that they were part of a series. I really thought it was just these 2. But A Bollywood Affair is the first one, and it follows a female main character character, Millie, who was married in her village in India as a child to another boy. Like they were married as children and never saw each other after their marriage. It was one of those things that was organized by the elders in their family. So while she never saw her intended again, she, in her mind, was raised to believe that she already had a husband. She believed that one day he was going to come back for her. But he and his family moved to the city and he absolutely forgot about it. It wasn't until he was actually about to get married to someone that he loves, that was when he remembered that something like that had happened and they had to resolve some paperwork there and some property issues because of their marriage or engagement or whatever happened. So his younger brother decided to go and settle all of that. But the younger brother, on meeting Millie, for some reason decided not to tell her who he was immediately. So he met her and pretended to be a stranger. And the rest of it follows their story, of course. But it's so good. It's such a fun, heartfelt, really witty, really emotionally packed book for something that like is based on a whole misunderstanding, at least on one part. So yeah, as soon as I finished this, I didn't even hesitate to start the second book because that is how good the first one was. And this one is a second chance romance between two childhood friends, childhood lovers. The families are really, really close. And again, the main protagonist of our story is the female main character. She and the main male character were in love as children, and for some reason, she decided to leave. She went into the city. She became a huge Bollywood actress, and later on, after many, many years have passed, they are reconnected because their mutual friends have decided to get married. And, you know, sparks fly. There's a little tension. They have to revisit things. We have to find out why exactly they left, why, you know, everything fell apart to begin with. But I love a good second chance romance every single time. I eat it up every single time. As long as the reason for getting back together makes sense, I'm all in. Speaking of second chance romances, the next book on my list is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. And if this book doesn't restore your faith in love and doesn't just make your heart soar, like as you're reading the story unfold, I don't know what to say to you. Honestly, your heart must be made of stone. You must be made of such strong things, because this is one of my favorite books. Even though I don't think it's the best book, it is just one of my favorite books. I love Elliot and Macy so much. It is also a second chance romance. It is childhood lovers who, for some reason that you're going to find out later in the novel, were separated, and then as adults they reconnect. That's actually how the book starts. It starts with them reconnecting, and then we go back and then go forward. There's a lot of time jumping in the book. But Love in Other Words is so good. It is a great love story. It has so many laugh out loud moments. It also has so many like heartwarming, make you want to cry, even if like you're crying from sadness, or crying if you're like me and you also cry from happiness. It'll give you all the feelings, and I love that. I love a book that would just make me feel everything. It is so good. Love in Other Words is single-handedly responsible for why Christina Lauren are auto-buy authors for me, because I love this book so much. I trust everything that they put out, and I would rather be proven wrong after I read one of their books than, you know, never having read it at all. But yes, if you've read this book, let me know what you think of Elliot and Macy. I love talking about this book, and the other books too. I love talking about this book so much. I love it. So much. And then in December of 2018, this book came out. One day in December, it was all the rave. Reese's Book Club was fairly new at the time, so that's why I got this recommendation from. This is also it's a multiple chance romance. Actually, it's 10 chances. So you see how like I've bookmarked all the years and the time jumps that the book goes through. But it is two people who have a chance encounter and meet at the beginning of the book, and they never really see each other, never really get to know each other. Actually, I don't think there was much of an interaction on the first meeting, but they were so into each other. And the female main character, Lori, goes home and tells her best friend about this person that she's met, who she's convinced is her soulmate, but she never got his contact information and is not sure she'll ever see him again, blah, blah, blah. And then multiple months pass, and the next time she sees her best friend is dating someone that she wants to introduce her to, and it turns out the person who her best friend is dating, it's the guy, it's Jack, the guy from the bus. And of course, neither of them say anything. Neither of them talk about the fact that, you know, they're in love with each other, and that he stays in a relationship with her best friend, Sarah, I think her name was, and we follow them, all three of them, and actually all four of them, because Lori also gets involved with another guy in the book. We follow both relationships over the span of, I think, like 10 years. We see things unfold. They, you know, the relationships get committed, but these two people that are in the separate relationships are still drawn to each other. They find themselves constantly pulled to each other. And I'm not going to lie to you, as much as I loved this book, it stressed me out. Because for me, there's only so much will they, won't they that I can take, but I didn't realize that until I read this book. So even though I found the characters to make annoying choices, they were not annoying in a I want to put this down. They were just annoying in a why would you do that? Like that just seems like you're causing more stress for yourself and for everyone else involved. It was that type of book, but I wouldn't trade this book for anything. I love it so much. But yes, I'm just going to tell you, it will stress you out because you just like talk to each other. Damn it. So yeah, One Day in December by Josie Silver. The next book and the last fiction book that is on my list is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan, the book that exposed me to the author, the amazing storyteller that is Kennedy Ryan. This is the book that started it all. Long Shot follows Iris and August, and it is a book that means everything to me. I don't think I've ever felt real protection for a person who isn't real like I did for the female main character Iris in this book. I just wanted to cover her in a cloud of love and never ever let anything touch her because she goes through so much in this book. Trigger warning, this book has a lot of content warnings for graphic depictions of intimate partner violence, but also well done. It is about a woman, Iris, who ends up trapped in a relationship with the wrong type of person, the wrongest type of person, really. And you follow her as she gets herself out of that situation, pulls herself back up, reconnects with herself, reconnects with her body, her mind, her spirit, takes her power back, and then reemerges. But you know, it's not just pain. That's one thing about Kennedy Ryan's writing. She can have you crying on one page and on the other page laughing out loud. She excellently writes a book that covers a wide range of emotions. There is a long list of authors that I know that do that really well, and Kennedy Ryan is one of the greats. Really, really amazing book, Long Shot. The next 3 books on my list are books that got me back into nonfiction. And that was really hard because I was trying to go so far away from reading books to learn something. I almost didn't go back into nonfiction. But I also didn't want to go all the way because there are books like creative nonfiction books, which are some of the books on this list that are really enjoyable, even though they're not, based off real people. So the first one is I'm Judging You by Lovey Ajayi. I still remember the week that I read this book. I was laughing the entire time. I don't think a book that wasn't fiction had made me laugh as loud, like laugh out loud as I did when I was reading this book. And loving this book is talking about everything. It's talking about culture and how you navigate all the different types of relationship within all the cultures and all the societies that we find ourselves in, especially for people who find themselves to be in different communities at the same time, and how to navigate being multiple people at the same time, or all the different aspects of yourself. She talks about pop culture, she talks about creativity, she talks about going through life, growing up, navigating what it means to discover yourself, to be yourself, to explore yourself, to be the authentic version of yourself. It is such a great book. It was such a great book. I actually think she's written something else after this, but I haven't read it, or I could be wrong. Maybe this is the only thing she's written. But yes, I'm Judging You by Lovey Ajayi. Great book. Great book. Second one is The Courage to Write. And I believe I've spoken about this in my books that I think you should read if you're in your 20s and in your 30s. This book is single-handedly responsible for why I decided to start blogging, which is what led me into being a creator online. So if you're grateful for me, which I am, you should be grateful for this book. It started everything. It is a book about transcending your fears, specifically written to writers, but I think everybody who wants to create anything, who wants to put any form of media out into the world, or honestly just learn to express themselves, could benefit from reading The Courage to Write. I love it so much. I keep going back to it. It is one of my most reread books. And the last book is by Eula Biss. It is on immunity, which is a title that is very on the nose because it does talk about vaccines and inoculation. And I always didn't read this book because I was just finishing a master's in public health. So reading a book that was about public health was a little off-putting to me at the time. I really didn't want to pick it up, but my professor at the time had recommended it, and he said it's more philosophical than it was social sciences, which I think he lied a little bit because it is a little heavy on the social science. But even though it is brilliantly and intelligently written, she also writes about a topic that we would come to find in the world that we're living in is apparently so divisive, right? The idea of inoculation, taking vaccines, is one that we've had to navigate because, COVID. But she writes such heavy themes, scientifically heavy themes, but breaks it down in a way that makes it feel very interpersonal, very down to earth, very layman. And one of my pet peeves about the way some scientists choose to share information is sometimes they write it in such a technical way that everybody can't understand. It almost feels like they're writing to prove their own brilliance to their peers. But Yulubis clearly wants to write it so that everyone can understand what is at stake. And I think she's very graceful in the way she addresses the anxieties that comes with taking something as simple as a flu shot. You know, if you're the kind of person that has hesitations toward those things, she really balances that really well in a very careful way that causes you, if you're the kind of person who has those anxieties, to shift your thinking towards considering what is at stake and how responsible we are for each other when it comes to health. How much do we actually owe each other? So yeah, it is a really good book that came in really handy when we hit 2020 and a pandemic was afoot. So those are the books that got me back into reading. Let me know if you've read any of them, if you've heard of any of them, if any of them are on your list, or if you would like to put them on your lists. Yeah. I hope you found this entertaining and I hope you learned something. I definitely enjoy going back into my bookshelf to, pull these out from the archive, as they say, so that I could share with you some of the books that are responsible for my book buying habits now. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye.